All right. How's everybody doing out there today? This is Gold Pilled here with the Gold Pilled stream. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about the whole wag the dog scenario going on in the Far East Europe there with Ukraine and Russia. I'm sure you're aware of because the mainstream media has been shoving it down everybody's throats here for the past few weeks. And as usual, everything that you're being bombarded with in mainstream media is pretty much lies. Flat out lying to your face, as usual. So, we're going to cover some of these lies here today. And, like, as soon as this whole wag the dog thing started, I knew it was BS, like, immediately. So, I didn't let any of the stories that were first coming out, sway me, or the videos they were putting out of all the poor people, Russia killing them. I knew that was likely all BS. And as time goes on here, that's just, being proven to being true, more and more. Um, I've, talked numerous times in my videos that anything in the mainstream, whether it's the mainstream media or the mainstream alternative media now, um, most of it is BS. You know, they lie right to your faces. So when you see stuff in the mainstream being pushed, you better question it immediately. If not, dismiss it outright until you can research further. Because they they have no bounds when it comes to lying to your face. It's rather sad that they can do that and get away with it. And so many people, just accept it and are completely unaware of it. So you got to continue to get to that gold pilled level because you get the gold pilled and you see this stuff immediately. You're not swayed by anything because you can see clearly. And it's nice being able to see like this, but it's also a curse. Like in the Matrix. I forget what the one dude's name was, but he wanted to go back in the Matrix. He wanted to forget everything, go back in, and what did he say? Ignorance is bliss. Well, for the ignorant out there, yep, they're living their lives, thinking they have bliss. Meanwhile, if you're gold pilled, you see everything, and it's kind of a bummer. It's a little depressing. When you see the real truth and everything, because um, it's it's not easy to go on living a normal day to day life when you know everything that's going on and you can see everything. So it's not a fun place to be being gold pilled, but I'd rather be there than asleep in a mindless zombie slave tax cattle. So before we get started here, I want to give a shout out to my last video. It broke records. It's my most popular video that I've done, and got popular so quickly. In such a short amount of time. I have almost 80 views on it now. So some of you out there must either be fans of K Griggs or maybe it was the Alex Jones talking about him again. But um, everyone seemed to really like that video. Um, I'm not one of those people to take requests and stuff, but considering I'm just starting out, small channel. Um, if anyone wants an opinion, on a certain topic or a certain area of truth, let me know. Say something, and if I see it, maybe I'll cover that topic or give you my opinion on it. If you want to hear it. So you guys, interested in anything, speak up and let me know. I love to give my opinions, and it's it's more or less I like to teach. Um, I've always been a quick learner. really smart individual. I figure out the easiest, quickest ways, most efficient ways to do things. Whenever I learn stuff, I like to teach it to other people. I like to share that knowledge so that, other people can benefit from it. I've always been like that. So, if anybody wants opinions and stuff, my views, ask. I have no problem trying to help and teach a little. I actually enjoy it. So let's share my screen, and we're going to go check some stuff out about Russia and Ukraine. So let's see, what was my screen share? All right. So to start off with how they lie about everything, old Hunter Biden's laptop. Remember when that first came out? And it was just Russian disinfo. That's BS. Well, now, for whatever reason, they're admitting, that Biden laptop, that was true. It was a true story. So that means everything contained in there is likely true. And all the damning evidence, that's real. But it's too late now. The goldfish, their minds forgot about it. Their attention span's gone on to something else. So it won't have any effect. They should have said immediately that it was true during the election time. But nope, they just covered that up. So they said anything in the mainstream, you better red flag it or disregard it until you can research more, because they lying to you right to your face. So let's get into Ukraine. The wag the dog. It was Russia's turn to wag the dog, because we couldn't be caught up in any more wars. So we have Russia do it. And just them doing it, we can still wag the dog. Vicariously, I guess you would say. So, what are they lying about now? Well, let's start with Israel is arming the Ukraine groups. So Israel shipping weapons over there to all the Western supported factions in Ukraine. Now, you hear all this talk about the Nazis in Ukraine. Well, yeah, there are groups in there that are kind of neo-Nazis, and they got tattoos, and they take names from German groups, and they are real. And Israel is arming them. And you would think that Israel would be staunchly against that. But nope. The people who control Israel are also the people who control Russia, and the people that control the U.S., and the people that control all of First World Europe. They control all these countries. So Russia is arming the supported groups in Ukraine. And it doesn't matter if they're neo-Nazi or not. They're part of the group, they're part of the agenda. They're proxy groups to achieve the agenda. So they get armed. And funny thing is, with them arming the troops, you have the actor Zelensky here, and the way that they're going to find peace is in Jerusalem. So let's watch this little clip here.
Israeli aid delegation got ready to fly to Ukraine. The country's prime minister spoke from the runway.
Israel has extended its hand in aid in the Ukraine crisis for several weeks. We are managing this unfortunate crisis in a sensitive, generous and responsible way, while balancing various and complex considerations.
The comments came after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed Israeli MPs on Sunday, calling on Israel to take a tougher stance against Russia. He later asked his Israeli counterpart to mediate peace talks in person.
Israeli Prime Minister Bennett is trying to find a way to negotiate with Russia, and we are grateful for that, for every effort, so that sooner or later we start talking to Russia, perhaps in Jerusalem. This is the right place to find peace, if it is possible.
Preserving strong ties with both Moscow and Kiev, Naftali Bennett has been in regular communication with both leaders, and on the 5th of March flew to Moscow for a 3-hour meeting with Putin at the Kremlin. He's treading a delicate balance. On one hand, there's the historical alliance with the US, a staunch supporter of Ukraine. On the other, geopolitical constraints that force Tel Aviv to stay on good terms with Moscow. Russian troops are present at its northern border with Syria. A dispute with Israel could prompt Putin to disturb the fragile balance of the region. For now, Israel continues its balancing act, condemning Russia without imposing sanctions on Moscow and refusing to sell arms to Kiev, which has already asked several times for Tel Aviv to share its Iron Dome air defense technology.
Okay, so it looks like Israel and Naftali Bennett, they're really interested in helping old Zelensky there. But what about all the Nazis in there? Yeah. Well, like I said, they don't care. You know, they make money off the arms deals, and it's serving their agenda, and they act like, they're a moderator between Zelensky and Putin when it's all theater, on the world stage. And I like Zelensky and his kind of hunter green t-shirts he wears. Try to make him look more like a people's man. He's more on the peasant class. He don't wear a suit and tie. He just wears a t-shirt. Like that, all that works on the low IQ. Seeing him like that. So you got Israel giving weapons to neo-Nazis. And in case anyone wasn't aware, back in 2014, the U.S., probably CIA led, we did a coup in Ukraine and got, whatever controlling regime in there to, for us to puppeteer. And during this time, they've had a bunch of biolabs in the Ukraine. And that's come up in controversy because at first, oh no, we don't have biolabs there. But I'll give it a little bit. And oh yeah, we do. We have biolabs there. And now it's, we don't want the Russians to get a hold of the biolabs. I wonder how big of a part these biolabs had with the whole C-19 incident. And then we're supposedly secretly scurrying Soviet-era weapons into Ukraine. So I'm not sure what that's about or why they're Soviet-era, but that's an interesting revelation there. And let's get on with all the stories that they're putting out and lying to you about. Let's start with this. In case you weren't aware of the corruption there in Ukraine, well, all these political puppets that are in the thingy, they're just making millions and millions of dollars. Just like the Bidens were making millions and millions off puppeteering the Ukrainian groups. Well, here's a Ukrainian politician trying to cross the border, and they had 28 million in US dollars and 1.3 million in euros in suitcases they were trying to dip out of Ukraine. So there's the corruption of the US-led groups there. Their politicians are scurrying off with millions of dollars, probably your dollars, and all the people there suffer. Well, we're going to hear from some of those people, and they're going to tell you some of the real things that's going on here in Ukraine. I have a few videos of Last American Vagabond's videos because his coverage is excellent. Highly recommend you follow Last American Vagabond. It's mostly on Rokfin. And he does Odyssey too. So Odyssey and Rokfin's where to find him. His research and stuff is second to none in the truth community. And he's probably, in my eyes, possibly the only legit truther out there that's not working some kind of alternative angle. So he has his videos here showing, some of the real truth in Ukraine. And we have stories of Americans and even other foreigners to Ukraine from other countries, but people are going there and fighting on behalf of Ukraine. They're joining these battalions they're creating and, going out there and fighting. And you have this one guy here saying that he was fighting there and was injured in an airstrike. And he even got a tattoo of their, one group there. And this is, I guess, a neo-Nazi related tattoo. And I'm not sure how deep this goes. Let's play this and listen. I might skip around a little bit.
If you've recruited while you're in the United States, that's a crime, but nobody seems to care because it's one of those crimes that are acceptable, like attacking Russian people right now. You don't need a crime for it because Russia's a bad guy. But it's the international peacekeeping mission, right? Well, here's what he had to say about it. An American foreign fighter who would identify himself only as Xander, and that's the person they quoted, by the way, on the ground, and didn't give his last name, except what you'll find is that the Western press who quoted what he said left out a very important part of what he actually said, which is showing you that they know they're lying, showing you they know they're trying to cultivate a narrative. Western press are grossly dishonest, and it's not because that's just always how it is, because they've cultivated it that way. People that go into these fields like Alison Morrow, who have integrity, are pushed aside because they have integrity, because they're not willing to lie for their truth. Well, he says that he was injured on March 13th in the Russian airstrike on this area. So Russia has actually said that this was a strike they carried out, but it wasn't on what they're claiming it was, right? And that's on the International Center for Peacekeeping and Security in Yavoriv, located in the hospital. Of course, they blindly report.
So that guy there, he went and he joined, it was called the Zelensky Battalion. So they just created a Zelensky Battalion for foreigners to come and join. And these bombings of maternity hospital, theater, a lot of this stuff isn't being done by Russia. It's actually being done by the Ukrainian factions that are in control of the country. And I believe this maternity hospital was one of them. And there's another, it's right after this, because that's why Vagabond mentioned this. But in these Ukrainians that are saying that they want to hurt the kids, kill the children. Apparently the eastern part of Ukraine, kind of being a different demographic, the rest of Ukraine kind of hates them, kind of wants them dead. And they're calling for the killing of children. We see here, this guy has bombs, and he's like, these are ready for the children. So let's play and see if we can get to that.
Okay, now we're back in place here. State accusing Kremlin of war crimes for bombing a theater housing children. So the Azov Battalion speaks up and the U.S. government steps to action. Or rather, the U.S. government triggers an action by the Azov Battalion and points at it to achieve their goals. Quote, Russian forces bombed a theater in Mariupol, where hundreds of people had taken shelter. The word children had been written in Russian in giant white letters on the pavement outside the building so that you could know from the air that there were children inside. I mean, I just can't believe anybody takes this seriously. Quote, Russian forces also opened fire on 10 civilians who were waiting in line for bread, which, by the way, we already showed you is very suspect. Again, comes directly from one person on the ground that they didn't cite. They said it was anonymous. It was pointing to what they said happened. That's all they have. A member of the openly neo-Nazi military spoke to the U.S. press, and they reported what they said. Could it be true? Of course. But I showed you that the location they pointed at was, in fact, the idea that Russia is firing on a location that's behind them is absurd. And they keep doing that. Talk about false flags, guys. That's what we're staring at, in my opinion. But the idea that he's talking about them writing children on this, do you know what that reminds me of? The easily verifiable reality that that's exactly what the Azov Battalion has been caught doing. right there. Now, of course, the Russian embassy points at this, but this has been around long before they pointed at it. The reality is, guys, this is a member of the Azov Battalion. You can see the Ukrainian flag right on his arm. You can check this for yourself because I have, where it says, all the best for the kids. He's pointing at it. Right? This is their munitions with their writing and their flag on his arm. And by the way, here he is in other pictures with the Ukrainian flag, giving the Zigile salute and whatever else. Okay, just so we're clear about who this person is. He's writing all the best for the kids on the bombs that they're sending to attack the Donbass region. And this is an older photo, by the way. This is from before this all really kicked off, with the last recent February plus. So isn't that interesting that the Azov Battalion is caught, or rather gloating about how they're aiming at the children, writing all the best for your children in Donbass and bombing the children. Then CNN literally and openly cites that same group for claiming that Russia did the same thing. These people are either not that bright or they have the same like the US, they've got play 1, 2, and 3. That's what this looks like to me.
So, according to mainstream, they're spray painting children outside of buildings in big letters so the bomber planes can see them from the sky, and they know to drop bombs on there because they know there's children in there. Like, how ridiculous is that? Like, that is the most dumbest piece of propaganda, that I think I've come across. And they want you to believe that. But, like as Ryan here said, it's awfully similar to the Azov Battalion, where they would do that in the past, aiming for children. And there's the picture, and he said this is an old picture before all this started. They're pointing at bombs, saying, all the best for the kids. So they're killing their own people. And they're just, they're blaming it on Russia. And, like a plane could see that from the sky. And then here's sending the Soviet air defense system. It was secretly acquired. Yeah, I'm sure it was secret. So, let's continue on here. This whole Azov Battalion is a bunch of shady stuff. I haven't did any deep dives on them, but I'm sure what you would find would be interesting. Because here is that battalion would get U.S. arms in 2016, and the CIA has trained them since 2015. FBI verified the Azov Battalion is neo-Nazi, immersed with Ukraine's government, and that those in Charlottesville are their U.S. faction. So that's all very likelihood of being true. And that's just the agenda, filtering into, our country, in Charlottesville. And, they use that as an excuse to do things. And back to Israel giving funding and aid and munitions to Ukraine. Well, here, what did Congress do? Congress has just removed a ban on funding neo-Nazis from its year-end spending bill. So, well, we were kind of in a pickle because we had laws on the books that we can't fund neo-Nazis. So let's remove that ban so we can fund all these neo-Nazis over there now. So now we can do it, which I'm surprised they even removed it because they really don't care to break the law. So, but now it's technically by the books. They can fund these neo-Nazis. So, yay, more of your tax dollars can get sent to Ukraine. Then they're talking about Ukraine becoming labeled a domestic terrorist group. And I guess they're making claims of why they shouldn't be labeled that, which I don't know why. But they very likely are a foreign terrorist organization. It sure seems like it with all the attacks and killing people. Well, killing their own people. I forget what this clip was here. I don't remember if this was the doctor. Let's play it and see.
About it. But why not this? Well, because it's not fake. Because what you're going to see is a high-level individual on a national TV station that is telling you these people they shouldn't have the right to reproduce. Now, imagine if somebody said that in the context of an Israeli. Oh my God, they would be on the news for the next 3 years because you're anti-Semite. And by the way, I don't agree. That's disgusting. Anybody anywhere arguing that people are lesser than or that they should be castrated is a disgusting. He should have this. Putinoids stink to high heavens, but because harmless at the end, so to say, I gave orders to my medical staff, let me just do this. Just mute it because it's hard to read it. I gave orders to my medical staff, and I'm a great humanist and used to say a wounded enemy isn't an enemy anymore, but a patient. But this time around, I gave strict orders to castrate all the wounded because they are cockroaches, not humans. Out doctors always try to save patients, but Russians will die here. They will die in great numbers. Okay, now let's take a quick dance back to when they pretended they treated that Russian guy who claimed they're so kind and they fed us and they were just trying to fight for freedom and we were wrong. We didn't have the right reasons. Suddenly seems a little bit suspect, doesn't it? It says, and the lucky ones who get out alive will remember with horror Ukrainian lads, like Germans, Stalingrad. But those who do this may have to stand trial, isn't it, Grenadi?
So there you got some high-level doctor in Ukraine saying that he gave the order to any Russians coming in there for treatment to castrate them. Well, I think that would be a war crime, but apparently I'm not sure if they're actually going through with it. But he said on their mainstream television that it's going to be the order. To do that. So I'm very curious as to, if they actually follow through with that. But it's pretty sick stuff. He talks, I was a humanist and, I usually treat people and, take every life as sacred. But, when it comes to Russia here, screw them, we'll castrate them, we'll make them think, look at our land as horror because of how many people died there. Just ridiculous. All this stuff is just to confuse and send people down rabbit holes. They just love putting out all this information that people can't digest. And the ones that do digest just get all caught up in the rabbit hole. Now, here is one person, this dude. Supposedly, he traveled to Ukraine to fight, on their behalf. And he claimed that once he got there, they took his passport, ripped it up, wouldn't let him leave, told him to get out to the front lines or the Ukrainian government will shoot him in the back. And he's saying, if you want to try to get out of there and you're a foreigner, you need to do it by car or something. Because any other outlet, they won't let you. And then immediately after he said that, they came out with these videos where this guy is refuting his statement, saying it's all lies. He's a part of the Georgian Legion in Ukraine, which the Georgian Legion is a throwback reference to a group in Nazi Germany, the Georgian Legion. So he's a member of a throwback Nazi, group. And he came out immediately to dismiss that other guy's claims. And Vagabond goes on here to talk about how it's so suspicious this came out immediately. And, he's just, trying to, I don't know, forget the terms on the tip of my mouth. Kind of run interference to make people not believe that guy. And it makes sense. You can't trust any of these videos. I don't trust this guy saying it didn't happen, and I don't trust this guy saying they're doing that. Although I would probably lean more on this guy, that they probably are taking your passports and not letting him leave and sending you out there. So because you can't trust anything they put out there, and it's more or less likely the opposite of what they want you to believe. So what's it like for some citizens here? Well, the Ukrainian factions, well, for one, with this little clip, they are training children. That Azov battalion, the neo-Nazi groups, they have little children that they train with shooting and doing the salutes you can see in the picture. So they're creating more generations of these groups. And then they're rounding up people who were caught looting, as they call it, or taking Russian food. They're tying them or taping them to trees, and then like whipping them with stuff like sticks and like actual whips, just all kinds of stuff, beating them, pulling their pants down, just pretty much publicly humiliating them. And why? Well, because they spoke Russian, or they took food from the donations Russia's bringing in there to help alleviate the suffering. They went and got food in a bread line. Now they're getting tied to trees and publicly humiliated and whipped. And for why? Because the Ukrainian government hates their own people. And there's a clip here I'm trying to find for you guys. It's pretty interesting. I'll have to look and see if I can find it here. But it's Russia brought in a bunch of food for the Ukrainian people, and the people who were in line getting the food, because well, they really need it. They're hungry, starving, they don't have much provisions. Well, a small group of Russian, like I don't know if they were battalion groups or part of the factions, or maybe ordinary citizens who were brainwashed into supporting the factions. They kind of gathered around the food handout, and they were saying, oh, you guys are traitors for taking this food, and you shouldn't take it. Russia's evil, and by you doing this, you're traitors. And they've said that we will deal with you later in a very different way. And that really struck me, because it's like they're keeping tabs, on the civilians who are taking, this Russian aid. And, it's like they're going to remember them, mark them down, on a list that, you took aid from Russia. And, kind of once all the public spotlight and stuff's, a little less bright, they're going to strike back and probably kill them civilians, for doing that. And that's just straight evil. They're in a bread line trying to get food, and you're out there saying, oh, go ahead, but, once everything calms down here, we're going to get you. That's just straight evil. So let's continue on here and see some of the whippings.
Of this thing is because we are paid to perform set by the West. They're not saying this is fake. It's not fake. These are these are public representatives of the Ukrainian government. They are telling you that they're paying us to do things, that we don't care about these people, that we want them to die. We want to cleanse them.
That's an interesting little clip there we popped on. It's, Ukrainian officials, publicly in the mainstream saying, because we perform the tasks set by the West. So we just admitted that we do what the West tells us to do. Let's continue.
That's what they're telling you, lying to you. And all those people with their lampposts, telephone poles all over the country, sometimes without their pants. They're pulling their pants down because they're claiming they're looting. Now, could they be? Sure. And really, if someone's looting, they should be dealt with in a way, in a legal system. But what they're doing is simply grabbing them and doing this to them. Here's two women looting, and here's what happened to them. Now, trust me, there's more than just a couple pictures. Here's a thread of these people in a similar way being treated like this on the ground. Hundreds of civilians have been punished for diverse reasons in Ukraine by paramilitary groups like and the National Guard. That's the Azov Battalion. Strong footage, tortures, abuses, humiliation, even of kids and girls. Hold on. Because things go never get this. Oh, you know what? This is actually a different clip. You can still see if you look closely. These are Ukrainian soldiers. The one of these clips continues, and you can see him walk up to the end, and you can see the badge on his arm. I'm going to leave this open just in case I have to use it again for crime.
So there was some of the whipping and tying people up there, and here's another one.
Здесь надо подмотать, это руки надо. Видишь, что такое?
So real civil people there, huh? You know, you don't support what's going on here. We tape you up and whip you up, publicly humiliate you. Here's another one, a little clip Morphonius put up on BitChute.
Не буду, ну не буду, правда. Ну честное слово, ну не буду. Молодец, ну не буду. За что, блин?
Знаешь, что это такое? Виноват?
Да, виноват. Знаешь, за что?
За что?
За то, что когда тебя алкоголь разменял. Я ее продал.
Эта чепуха хотела натянуть колонку блютузную. Чел, передай привет Харькову.
Другому столбу.
Молодец.
Сейчас, подожди, пацаны, сейчас.
А?
Сказать тебе на камеру?
Да, говори.
Вот реально, вот тот. Вы снимайте, блядь, там, а мне привет.
Последнее у людей. Вот этот мародер забрал у бабушки. Повтори на камеру, что ты забрал?
Коробка с вещами.
Громче.
Коробка с вещами, где наша бабушка.
Совести нету, да, блин?
Не буду ходить. А ты можешь здоровья не можешь?
Их 10 человек. Всех привязали к деревьям. Обрати внимание. Видишь? Вот у нас, вот с дубинками подмога, вот бьют. Видишь? Бьют, да. С пистолетами, с дубинками. Вот так.
Я видел, он пацана в спину пырнул, я вызвал машину, остановил. А, с флажком, блядь, это раз.
Ебаш, ебаш, его еб...
Вот это, ребята, вот это, ребята. Вот это человек. Ну сколько скажи, либо разделу скотину. И зачем его? Тебя люди денег не
Алло. Антон, что ты творишь? Я вас забью, пидораса. Все, пожалуйста.
So there's a bunch of examples of supposedly what the Ukrainians are doing to their own people. And, could it be BS? Could that just be all propaganda being put out? Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, it's possible these videos are just another layer of the subversion onion, to get people down other rabbit holes. But I find it curious that there's so many different ones that lends a little credibility to that's actually going on. And, supposedly the reasons why that's happening is they're looters, they're criminals. But what people have been saying kind of suggests the opposite of that, where they're being taped up and stuff just for speaking Russian. Just the slightest association with Russia, they're doing this to them. So, what's going on there in Ukraine with the people on people, their own people, is evil. Just evil, doing that to each other. That'd be like Americans, turning on other Americans and start taping them to light poles and whipping them, publicly humiliating them like that. That's no different than us doing it to each other. So, and considering that with our coup in 2014, and I'm sure we've had a power and control even prior to that, but Ukraine has kind of been our puppet, and under our control for quite a while now. This is all happening under our watch, under the U.S.'s watch. This is happening. So what's that say about us? So we're going to get into some first-hand accounts here now, where people actually speaking about, what they've seen, firsthand.
В частный сектор я видел, хоронят там, где живут, там и хоронят. Украинские военные как-то помогали вам, давали зеленый коридор.
Testimony of Mariupol residents. Azov Battalion executed civilians trying to escape the city. Nobody gave us anything whatsoever. No corridors. He's saying the Ukrainian military stopped them from fleeing. That's exactly what Russia's saying. We sat in basements. Azov, he's crying, by the way. These people tried to evacuate Azov. They executed people, these monsters. They executed the convoys of civilians who tried to evacuate. Now, could he be lying? Yes. They shot them up, the entire buses. More witnesses from Mariupol saying Azov Battalion executed civilians from Mariupol. How did you manage to leave? Mariupol is the area where they say they're protecting people. Unclear. Russian army. Thank you very much. We hate Ukraine. Right? Saying the Russian army got him out. Why? Didn't Ukrainian army help you? Ukrainian army was shooting at us, shooting at people. Right at our house. Are you happy? Of course. Thank you. Thanks a lot. We have been sitting in the basement with children since 26th. Right. Isn't it? So what was actually happening, at least according to them, was they were the ones in a basement. They were suffering. And they were forced to stay there because they were afraid of the Ukrainian military. And what do? Well, they report to the world that these people are hiding in the basement and take pictures of them and say, look, they're scared of Russia. Interesting. Talk about wag the dog. That's what false flags look like, guys. Even false flag narratives, right? They're lying to you. Since February 26th, $300 people were hiding in the basement floor. That's in one house alone. Why didn't you leave earlier? No one allowed us to leave. They didn't give green corridors. Ukraine didn't let you leave the city. We were blocked. And that's exactly what Russia's about to tell you in a second. They're pretending they're blocking it in because they're trying to keep them safe. These people aren't allowed to leave, guys. And this is just one video. You should question it, or a lot of videos from one platform are out count. But I've already shown this from other individuals. I've got it confirmed content from Eva, from Vanessa, from Patrick Lancaster, from plenty of other people. And you should question all of it. But at some point, you have to begin to question whether or not you're being deceived with a narrative versus all this evidence. Military Ukraine, they, under any circumstances, do not leave the city. Russian Federation opens a green corridor for you. If they do, they wanted to continue using us as human shields. That's his opinion. It's his opinion. Here's another person. All these different locations. Another testimony of massacres and criminal behavior of Azov Battalion in Mariupol. By the way, exactly what they told you was going to happen, that they were going to frame a massacre in Mariupol. This is always what keeps happening. Now we're going to show you another one where they tell you they confirms another one they told you was going to happen. And yes, this all could be manufactured by Russia, but we sure would need some evidence to make that claim, wouldn't we?
We opened our eyes sitting in the basement of Terrasport. We were told that the Russian military had entered the city and that the city was being mopped up. We had to get out, go to Port City. Those who had cars left, and we had to walk with small children. The cars that rolled by were empty, but they didn't take us because everyone was scared. There were no houses along the way. Everything was on fire. The corpses of civilians and soldiers were everywhere. The children were crying. We walked under the bullets, barely made it to the buses. On the way, the Russian military gave the children sweets and food. All this time, the Azov militants hid behind us like behind a living wall. We were...
So what she's saying is that when they confronted the Russian military, they in fact gave them food. And then when they were being moved by the Ukrainian military, they hid behind them as they confronted the Russian military. Just what she's telling you.
Not allowed to go outside. We were kept in the basement for 15 days. They didn't give us any water. The children were screaming. There was nothing. Ukrainian militants just came, put tanks in front of the bomb shelters. We ran away so that we would not be shot at. Retreating, they bombed the bomb shelter in the drama theater, and people, including those wounded by shrapnel, were brought to us. We were all gathered like a herd. Only today, the green corridor was given. We were told that Russian soldiers were shooting people. When our children were leaving, everyone was hysterical. Everyone was crying when they saw the Russian military, simply because they got used to ours, how our Ukrainian troops treated them. You go into the store, you stand in line, they come drunk with machine guns, they push you and make you say, "Glory to the heroes." That's how we lived all this time.
My God. God, I got to be honest. This is upsetting me today. It's just really hard to watch this. Everybody in the Western press, all the people with their little flags next to their names are acting like this is absurd, of course, Russian propaganda. And yes, it could be. But do you not realize that you are choosing to ignore what could also be very, very disgusting open suffering by people that are being abused by those funded by your government? They're telling you, and you're not listening. They are being forced to stay in those basements that are then being pointed at as safe holds because of Russia. That's not what they're telling you is happening. They're telling you they're being attacked, that the Ukrainian neo-Nazis are running around attacking them, drunk and laughing and making them say glory to Ukraine. And they're literally telling them they're going to be shot. And when they confront the Russian side, they give them food and sweets. I mean, these are all different locations. You could argue it's all fake news, but you have to ask the question, don't we need evidence for that? Here is a Mariupol resident explaining how Azov Battalion positioned artillery in civilian areas, fired and then moved to other streets, repeating the operation around the city, which is called a fault. They're blaming these bombings on Russia. Oh, and don't forget, they also have Soviet weapons that I'm sure they're using. I wonder when that's going to come into play. We have nothing. We knew nothing. It says only rumors. They said from over there, there's an evacuation. There's a corridor there. Our yard, residential area, is like as if it was covered with honey for them. They arrive, make some shooting, then leave. Then again, they come, shoot, and leave. Like a human shield. We're like a human shield for them. Do they think they ask us? We want peace. It says, hold on, what'd she say there? Oh, it just started over. That's why. It So do you think they ask what we want? We want peace. Very sad. Another testimony from a Greek refugee. I have an article about this actually. So here we are in another example from other international media, and it's a Greek individual. Now, yes, that could also be manufactured, right? Of course, anything can, everything can. That's always the point. Another testimony from a Greek refugee from Mariupol. A young Greek woman from Mariupol who just arrived in Greece. Quote, Ukrainian soldiers stopped us and threatened us. The soldiers in the Russian tanks were trying to calm us down. Now, guys, just because they're saying that and this person on this account is only focusing on that does not mean there could be people in the Ukrainian army that aren't doing that. And there could also be Russian people on the other side doing bad things. It doesn't have to be so childishly binary. We just have to recognize that people on one side here that we're looking at are in fact doing bad things to civilians. That does not mean Russia's not doing the same thing. But if we can't acknowledge that it's happening on both sides, or at the very least on this side, then we are choosing to ignore these people suffering. When we know these are neo-Nazis, we know they've been funded by the CIA, and we know that they made sure to continue funding them, and they're connected to people they're trying to blame on you. You're watching this play out in real time. Now it looks like there's no subtitles. I'm gonna read the article next. Oh, there's the article right there. But several reports from Greek residents of Mariupol about the Azov horrors. The woman's account of being attacked by the Ukrainian military matches that of another Greek ethnic from Mariupol, who said he could not escape the besieged city because he would be killed by the neo-Nazis Azov battalion. Is that other member of is that other guy's information beginning to become more valid? Right? I mean, ask yourself whether that is suddenly now something that at least should be given a little more credence. Right. What that one guy was saying that was then immediately counterbalanced by two other people that still were in the control of the Ukrainian military. Don't forget that.
For any of you who are wondering what is going on, all right, we were part of the Georgian National Legion, the 102nd Ukrainian Territorial Defense,
which is an open neo-Nazi group that uses the name directly from a World War II Nazi unit, the Georgia Legion.
Okay. Our base got fucked up. The base right next to us got fucked up. Americans, British, tons of British dead. All right? They're not saying nothing. They're counting our dead as their dead.
I'm just going to jump a little bit.
Fucking pulling you out of the line and they're sending you back to the front. We got dropped off about 5 clicks from the fucking, from the border and we walked. People need to stop coming here. It's a trap, and they're not letting you fucking leave.
Now, I just don't, I mean, of course this could be somebody lying. That's always the case, and I'll always say that. I just don't get the benefit here of somebody, why you would go out of your way, you would leave your life, and you would travel to Ukraine, go along with this dangerous force, and then in the midst of it, try to leave in a very flagrant way and make videos about how they're bad. Doesn't that seem very risky? Doesn't that seem like there's like zero benefit to a very dangerous action? That's just something we should ask ourselves. That's just called logic, but certainly could be lying. In late February, with Russian forces besieging Mariupol, in which 120,000 ethnic Greeks live and are surrounded in villages. It says in the city and describe the Ukrainians as fascists. Some of these people think this. I don't know why we're not allowed to talk about it. I mean, I do know why. I know exactly what's happening, but in my opinion, more witnesses of Azov crimes. Azov battalion Nazis shield civilians in buildings. The mayor of the city of Mariupol. Oh, so here's an important one, guys. The mayor of the city of Mariupol has already been somebody on the record who's more than once been the one being cited as what was happening here. This is controlled by the Azov battalion. Let's see if I can just grab one really quickly. Let's see. Yep, there you go. Mayor of Mariupol says. Mayor of Mariupol warns. Mariupol mayor calls theater bombing a tragedy. Mayor of Mariupol. Right. This is your Western press, your journalists, blindly repeating what somebody says on the other side of the world because they're supposed to trust that person, because that's what they're being paid to do, in my opinion. Well, that is a guy who's in control of a city being run over by neo-Nazis openly. That's controlled by the Azov battalion. So here they are telling them, the mayor of the city of Mariupol openly called to make Molotov cocktails and throw them at the Russian military. Oh, doesn't that sound familiar? Sort of like when they showed you the Molotov cocktails from the BBC about where you could throw them, or the Molotov cocktails that were used in Venezuela, they tried to blame on Maduro. You know, there's always overlap here. Well, she's telling you that they told them to do that. She says, we have fascists there. Fascist Azov, right sector. They committed such atrocities. You know this stuff, guys. I've proven this to you. In our yard, they killed a child, killed a woman. A 2-year-old child was left in our yard. A random child. There's a full blockade. There is no connection, no water, no gas, no light. Ukrainian authorities are fooling us, saying that everything is taken under the control of Ukraine, that Russia is broken. And Putin is being judged in The Hague. You understand? They're pretending it's over, keeping these people as human shields. That's what she is telling you. Yes, she could be making it up, but why would you disregard this without proving it? Mariupol resident sends a message for her daughter. They've destroyed everything. She says, can you say your name? Tell us your name. Whom do you address? My daughter. My girl, I'm alive. Everything is okay. We have nothing left. No apartment, no car. They destroyed everything. Bandits, scumbags. Don't worry, my girl. We'll arrive soon. All right. So maybe just in hopes that finds her daughter somewhere in a war zone that's being created. Another video from Mariupol citizen. Azov Battalion used their yards to position heavy weapons. Azov Battalion used civilian areas to hide. Beastly attitude to people. We were like cannon fodder. And we were simply manipulated. They were firing back from the yards of residential blocks, using tanks, machine guns. I can confidently say that 85% of the damage to the city was caused by the Azov regiment. I mean, yes, they all be lying, but how many people from different locations, from different films and different channels? This guy's just posting videos. These are all from different outlets, guys. This is almost impossible to disregard. But it is. It's being disregarded. More witnesses from Mariupol. Azov Battalion positions artillery on their backyard. Same thing she was just telling you. Different channel. Yes, it's RT. You should question it. From a different person, different location, saying the exact same thing. Here, video with 3 residents of Mariupol. Same accounts. Azov put artillery in their residential areas, used them as human shields to stop troops from coming and leaving from the DNR, from the Russian troops, basically from trying to leave Russia, which is what we're hearing a lot. Mariupol residents saying Ukrainian army threw us into our homes to take firing positions, old people and kids. They locked families in the basements and abandoned them. The Russian troops rescued us. They are our brothers. That's what they're telling you, and you should question it, but listen for yourself. This one's a little hard to read, but I just read it for you. You can watch them for yourselves. There's a lot of this. Here's that other one we were just showing you, saying they used human shields. It's just really disgusting. It makes me sick. This is being disregarded. This is just like with Palestine, just like with Yemen. These people don't care about human life, and they're pretending they're the ones that only care about human life. It makes me sick. This is the one we already showed you. I think I had this up twice. Here's the Greek refugee. There's the article where she's talking about this in a Greek City Times. Here's another person telling Ukrainian nationals are trying to organize provocations and intimidate people during the distribution of humanitarian aid. The press service of the Russian Ministry of Defense announced this. Now, yes, you should question it, especially when it comes from one of the governments. But isn't that just what about 11 people confirmed for you? And you could question them. But they're telling you, if it's simply a data point, potential evidence, that that's exactly what's happening, that they want to leave. And in fact, the very people that are hurting and keeping them under human shields are the people that are being framed as heroes around the world. The neo-Nazis of the Azov Battalion. As he says, Sumy Mayor Alexander Lysenko said civilians trying to go to Russia through humanitarian corridors would be shot. Well, that's what they're all telling you. By the way, here's a video I've been trying to find. It's not available in your country, like pretty much anything right now that's showing you something else you're not supposed to see. Just recognize how interesting that is. Not available in your country. Why would that be? Why would that be? Now let's watch the video and you should ask even more, why would that be? And then you'll find out why. Because what she's telling you is exactly what they don't want you to see. Bullied for food. Nationalists force Ukrainians to choose between aid or land. See if we can get this to play.
So I believe this here is the clip of them threatening the people getting the humanitarian aid and food. Which, that video said it was blocked in your country. Well, that's a good question. How do you prevent real truth from reaching your people? Well, you just block the news outlets that are most likely to bring that news to them, which would be RT and stuff. So they blocked RT and other Russian news sources, and you don't get to see any of the info that they put out. you have to find a workaround to get it. And the video there that this guy in the little thumbnail there talking about, he's part of that Georgia battalion and it's a trap. He's the one that they quickly had someone else come out and denounce that I was talking about earlier. And you've seen all the first-hand accounts, just video after video after video, where they're being used as human shields. They're being slaughtered, indiscriminately killed. Dead children lying in their yards, left from the Ukrainian factions, the Azov battalion, and all the other crazy groups they have, just pretty much just doing to their own people what we've been accusing Syria and Bashar of doing to his people. Justifying our reason for being in Syria. It's, it sounds like, that's what Ukraine's doing to its own people. So technically, we should be in Ukraine trying to liberate them, but no, we're actually supporting them, and giving them what they need to carry out these atrocities. Just, it's terrible. It's disgusting. Let's continue and let's finish this up.
Oh, you know what? I was going to do it this way anyway, because I believe it's in subtitles, I think. No, it's RT. Let's see. See if it plays.
These areas now under the control of Russian forces and where humanitarian aid is being delivered, we see the same scene being repeated. And that is hundreds, thousands of people queuing at distribution points for desperately needed food. And always a handful of spoilers appear, most often with mobile phones to film what they're doing. They'll stand there and shout insults at Russian troops or the masses queuing for desperately needed food. They then upload that footage to social media or friendly Western media outlets to create the impression that Ukrainians are against Russian aid, when it couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, now one, you just heard a lot of people say that that's not the case, that they've been desperately wanting that and they've been withheld from getting it. But what's interesting is that they just explained that to you in the images you saw. What they're saying essentially is that those people show up and intimidate them. They threaten them. They threaten them because they're getting help from someone that they don't want them to get help from. That's what they just told you in like 6 of those different videos. So you should question what he's saying here. But there's a lot more backing this up than anything else you're going to see.
Across liberated areas of Ukraine, convoys of Russian aid, food, and essentials are an increasingly common sight. Hundreds of tons have been loaded and sent to Ukrainian cities and communities on the verge of starvation. But some people would rather see thousands starve. In queues that stretch for hundreds of meters, you'll find them holding phones in people's faces. They are few in number, but aggressive and loud. We don't want anything from you. Take your stuff and get out of here. Glory to Ukraine. Get the F out of here. Right, as these people are standing here, starvingly eating food, right? And then they run in here and go, "Oh, glory to Ukraine!" Like it's clearly not the representation of what's obviously being shown. Like they're trying to scare these people away from taking what they need. This is tame compared to what other Ukrainian nationalists are saying. They want to hunt down anyone, starving or not, who takes badly needed food from the Russian convoys.
Which is what they've said on the record, right? These people have spoken up in their own media and said, if you do this, we're going to shoot you. All of this is out there for you to find. I mean, I can literally show you, and as I've had in the past, their own Twitter accounts where they're openly saying, like, for instance, we're going to dip these bullets in pig fat because we want to kill Muslims and not let them go to heaven. I didn't pop. Hold on. Oh, it's this one. That's such a crazy claim that I really need to bring that up when I reference that. This is very clear. And as I showed you before, it's even still, to this moment, right now, still publicly available to be seen on Twitter. Even though it violates our rules, but we're going to leave it up anyway. This is the National Guard of Ukraine with a blue check. That's the Azov Battalion. openly neo-Nazi. And look, that's the symbol that guy got on his arm right there. And what are they saying? Well, we're going to dip these bullets in pig fat so Muslims don't go to heaven when we kill them because they're fighting Muslims in certain areas. That's what you support, U.S. government? That's what you support, American public that doesn't understand the lies you're being fed? You support these people. If you're trying to run from that because you don't want to admit it, you're a bad person. He says, which of you exchange your country for your stomach? Who is dying of hunger? We will find every man who takes food. We will deal with you later in a very different way. If you who are apparently dying of hunger, you scum. Right. So people who want food from the Russians are being attacked. But we're fake news, though.
They are a tiny minority, the nationalists and neo-Nazis, but they have enormous sway. Years of murder, violence, bullying, and intimidation have frightened people to the core. Few dare to stand up to them, but judge for yourself. For every 1,000 people that welcome Russian aid, only a handful appear to insult and scream.
And don't forget that this is your government that's allowed this, while they pretend they're doing this for the Ukrainian people. Just like they starve Yemen for the Yemen people, and they starve Iran for the Iranian people, and they destroy Libya and destroy Afghanistan and destroy Syria for those people. Because that's what liberation looks like in today's world, right?
I want to say to all of the citizens of Kherson that I wish them health. I want to thank you. We are very happy and grateful.
On Ushakova Street, we have a supermarket nearby. It's empty. There's nothing in the store except sweets. There's a shop next to us. I stood in line there to buy 2 slices of cheese and a pack of butter. I gave 197 hryvnia. These are unthinkable prices. They're like Moradors. There's a crazy queue for bread. People cannot buy bread.
Russia's intended denazification of Ukraine has already begun. It will likely be an intense process, given how grave the security threat is. Just
Excuse me, by the way, apparently, and this was just off the cuff comment a while back, but apparently that Z is actually obviously representative of the other side. My thought of it when I first saw it was like a Zelensky or something like that. But obviously it's been shown to be the other side of that. Just in case people remember that point from like weeks and weeks ago.
Kilometers from where aid workers were handing out food, Russian forces detained a man with explosives, firearms, and orders.
What is your rank? What branch of the armed forces? The 124th Territorial Defense Brigade, head of military civilian cooperation.
The threat of terrorist attacks, bombings, and subterfuge will likely grow as nationalists and neo-Nazis hunker down and go into hiding. But for now, it remains a tough balancing act for Russia, juggling the needs of the people and their goodwill while fulfilling its goal, the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine.
Now, it's, interesting to me. What was the part? I forgot let me see here again real quick.
The threat.
Just the idea of that, like this, again, I don't want us to, you should question this as always. Anytime you see something like this, I'm always wondering, is it real? Did Russia fake that? Did they, make him say that? Who knows? It's always possible on any side, any government. But what we need to remember, and this is why it's always, at least today, why I feel like probably plenty of people see that I'm leaning in one direction, is because these people who we know for a fact are open neo-Nazis who are in fact in control of Mariupol have openly said they want to do this, have openly said, I just showed you videos of them speaking. They want to murder these people. And they just said, we are going to kill you if you take the food. So when they have a guy that gets arrested for attempting to bomb them and it just gets dismissed as Russian propaganda, don't we factor in that they've said they want to do that? I mean, it's just ridiculous where we are today, and we have to start realizing there's more going on. Now, here is something that I might not be, dang it, guys. All right, well, you know what? In the interest of time, I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to go over this again in the next time I cover the Ukraine discussion, but this is a former NATO representative who is speaking on the record with why he thinks what Russia is doing is in fact legal because he initiated Article 51 of the Treaty of the United Nations, and apparently that suggests or was it I could be misremembering. I'm pretty sure it was United Nations, or it could have been. In any case, the point was he initiated definitely United Nations. So a charter for the United Nations, and it was 51, where basically the point was that that's joint cooperation, and that's only if locations declare independence. And that's what they did in the Donbass. Now, one of the thoughts I had was maybe Russia drove that to action so that they could then take that out. Who knows? That's not what seems to resonate with me, but that's possible. But what's interesting is that there's a legal standing for what they're doing right now. And he argues that it's possibly sound to the point to where they could try to make this a bigger deal, and they could legally explain in a court of law why this was legally bounding or legally binding, excuse me, and how they used the article because they were allowed to. Now, regardless, he goes on to explain why what you're hearing about a lot of this is not actually true. That what they're doing over there, I mean, it's interesting to find a point of view of somebody who was once in NATO. Now, I'm gonna kind of rattle through this to wrap up here, guys, but this is what you get from the other side. Now, yes, in some cases you do get videos, and a lot of them have been shown to be false.
So interesting there. Apparently, what Russia's doing in Ukraine, there might actually be a legal standing as far as the UN is concerned. So that's interesting. But yeah, like this headline here, this is the mainstream media. They feed the U.S. Russia continues to strike civilian targets in Kiev and across Ukraine. Well, it don't sound like that's going on from what I've seen here, does it? All these interviews and people speaking out that we just watched, it would really suggest the opposite of what you're being told, wouldn't it? And there's a lot of people through here that we're talking. It's all interesting. Now, I got this one more clip of a woman talking about her frontlines experience. And then this guy here, he was denouncing this other guy. He said that they were taking your passports, not letting you leave, and this was the suspect one. So let's play this for a minute.
That seems to sort of challenge the overall point. Listen to this one first.
Hello, Harrison Giuseppowitz here, Georgian Legion here.
Georgian Legion.
What we can say is whatever may or may not be circling right now from Henry Locke, it is completely false.
Whatever may or may not be circling? I didn't even pick up on that the first time I listened to that. Whatever may or may not be circulating is all false. So what's not circulating is also false? Now, sure, he could have just said the wrong thing, but I find that to be a little weird, don't you? So whatever...
Now, he said Henry Locke. Henry Locke is the name that this dude is going by. I don't think that's his real name, but he's called Henry Locke.
Anything you're going to hear that we think is wrong, it's all false. Everything's false.
What we can say is whatever may or may not be circling right now, no threat ever was made by the Georgian Legions as us, as a humanitarian organization working directly with the Georgian Legion, was ever threatened. No Georgian Legion ever threatened us with a rifle or anything of that nature.
Okay, so he could be, I mean, my first point would be simply that could be true, and he could know that. But does she know that? And does this guy have access to every single encounter that Henry Locke had with these groups? It seems odd to me. This feels wrong. The timing of it, how fast this was put out, seems weird to me.
The leader of the Georgian Legion, Mamuka.
Okay, right there, the leader of the Georgian Legion, the person we just showed you, who worked alongside the right sector, who worked with Craig Lang, who is literally with the Georgian Legion, who leads it, who is an open white supremacist group. That's who this guy is with.
Okay, so enough of that. That's just, this one guy said he went there and it turned out everything wasn't what it seemed. They're not letting you leave, and immediately this dude pops out into the media to, recant that and say it's all lies. So just showing both sides of the propaganda, and honestly, both of them could just be propaganda, put out there, they could both be orchestrated. So let's watch this one and be done.
Donbass.
Really going on there, what nobody knows in the West because nobody's showing them is that this is not evil separatists living in Donbass. This is normal people who have normal lives, family, children, and every day Ukraine is fighting with them, is attacking them every day. I even woke up in the nights because there was a bomb going up somewhere near the front. And every day you are reading that even children are dying from them. And it's always the Ukrainian side who is starting these attacks. It's never the Donbass guys. I've been to the front. I've seen everything. I talked to the soldiers. I know what is going on, and I really can say it's not evil separatists. This is only people who, well, this is the main problem in the Western news. They didn't tell you that in 2014, nationalists, well, ultra nationalists, made a governmental, what is a return?
Revolution?
Like a revolution. A coup, yeah, it was a coup. What was going on there in 2014? And now there are nationalists, Ukrainian nationalists, Nazis sitting in the government and attacking people who speak Russian and even don't speak Ukrainian. And the first law they wanted to impose was to forbid the Russian language. And especially in the eastern part of Ukraine, well, the Donbas region, all this last years there, well, there are most of the people in the Donbas region are Russians or Russian Ukrainians. Well, it was the same people in the Soviet Union, right? So they don't make a difference actually. But lots of them even don't speak Ukrainian. And then they saw, okay, now we have an illegal government who wants to forbid Russian language. Why should we accept that? And so this was the reason why they separated from Ukraine. And then Ukraine started to attack them. And this has not really been told us in the West.
Okay, so your Telegram channel.
So interesting there. From the way everything sounds, it seems like Ukraine is having a kind of civil conflict. I wouldn't call it a civil war, but they're having a civil conflict between regions of the country, and it's resulted in one side, of the country's faction attacking and killing and, kind of genociding the other side, and Russia has stepped in to help the side being attacked, because the side being attacked is kind of more ethnically Russian. That's the way it appears, which is the exact opposite from what mainstream media is shoving down everybody's throats. However, thinking on a higher level, a gold pill level here, with the world is it's the world theater or the world stage, and everything being put on is theater. Russia, what they're doing is intentional. It's all part of the bigger plan. They control both sides of war. So they create this problem in Ukraine. We did a coup in 2014, put in our puppeteer government, which is these neo-Nazi factions, and then we pit them against the other people in the country, the eastern region, the Donbass, the one bordering Ukraine. We cause internal conflict, and that's the problem. We have the reaction, and then the solution is to have Russia come in and invade. And it's problem, reaction, solution, the Hegelian dialectic, but they're controlling both sides of it. So even though it appears like, Ukrainians are killing their own people and Russia's the good guy swooping in, to help them, it's a little more deeper than that. It's, Russia's sweeping in to help them, but they're coming in intentionally because it's orchestrated, to play out this way at a higher level. So, like I said, world stage, and everything they show you is theater. So, it's kind of terrible that, the Russians are bringing in humanitarian supplies and food for these people who have nothing there in the eastern Ukraine, and they're being threatened with, being shot in the back or taken care of later, once things calm down, for taking that food, and they're starving. It's, like I said, it's disgusting. So I'm gonna link the Last American Vagabond's Rokfin channel here in the description. I highly recommend you go follow him and watch all his content, because he's the best independent alternative media news source out there. Probably the only one that I really don't see an ulterior angle being pushed by him. And he just has great content, like all the stuff I showed you here today. So go check him out. Go subscribe. All right, that's gonna wrap it up here. We're a little over an hour. So I hope you guys learn something new here about all the lying being done to you. Like I said, when you see mainstream media, whatever mainstream media is pushing, automatically put it on the back burner and write it off as likely not true until you can research it further and, find out, whether it's true or whether it's the opposite of what they're saying. Everything they give you is targeted to update your firmware. I spoke about before about them sending firmware updates to your brain, your brain computer. They give firmware updates to, change your way of thinking. And pretty much all mainstream media is upgrading your firmware, in a small incremental fashion, but it's upgrading you. So anything you see or hear, do not let it update your head. Think higher, do your own research, and get to that level where you can see all this stuff instantly. Get to gold pill level. All this stuff will be instantly clear, and you will see everything in real time. And, the firmware updates won't be as effective. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Everybody, take care out there. Times are trying right now. Just prepare yourself for future struggles. I don't see things getting any better, and I think times are going to get a lot harder. We've been way too comfortable and way too complacent and way too lax with our lifestyles. And I have a feeling here in the near future, our lifestyles are going to change drastically. And we're going to go from, gluttons, and bliss to maybe rations and, struggle. So prepare for that. Have plans in place to be able to take care of you and yours, because we might need it. Now, I'm not pushing any fear or anything, and I don't think we're going to have a big World War III, and I don't think there will be any nuclear strikes. That's all just fear porn to scare you and probably get you spending money too. But they do have a plan to slowly crumble the U.S. The dollar is hyperinflation. They're talking about, hurting the petrodollar, with Saudi Arabia considering selling it in yuan. So our easygoing, have everything lifestyle might change here in the future. So just be prepared for that, everyone. All right. I'm Gold Pilled with the Gold Pilled Stream. Take care, everyone. Peace.